little bit? Because I obviously I know Miss Holly and I know Vicky, but I don't know Xenia and Curtis very well.
Okay, Curtis, you can go first if you want.
Sure, sure. My name's Curtis Shimshak. I live in the city of Racine. A little bit of my background is I've worked in the banking sector. I've also worked with student loan financing and sales, and I have a bachelor's in business management. And I'm looking to help out my community with my experience.
Okay. So what is your role with the Racine Financial Empowerment Center?
I'm a counselor. I'm a financial counselor with my colleague Xenia, and we're here to help individuals provide a free professional one-on-one financial consultation service.
Yeah. Now you guys just launched this though, right? Just a few months ago?
We just launched officially in December, December 7th, and Xenia is our other counselor. So we've hired 2 counselors, and this is a city service. So it's a city service done in partnership with Housing Resources, Inc., with HRI. And so Xenia and Curtis are both employees of HRI, and they are our first 2 full-time financial counselors of the Financial Empowerment Center.
Awesome. Awesome. So you've got like a whole month in, and like, what have you guys learned so far as in that whole whopping month?
Go ahead, Xenia.
Okay. I was going to say that me personally, I have learned that I was a little naive in all of the different areas that clients were going to be struggling at the same time.
Yeah, I imagine it's complicated.
Yes, that was my big surprise. Well, I guess not a surprise, but I guess I underestimated it a little bit.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how the Financial Empowerment Center works. What can you get out of there, and who can access it? Things along that line.
I'll start, and then I'll let Xenia and Curtis jump in if I miss anything or misstate anything, or they want to put their own spin on it. So it is a free service available to all City of Racine residents. And the only eligibility requirement is that you live in the City of Racine. And then you are welcome to come use this new service. And what residents can get out of it is a whole range of help, from residents who may be struggling with COVID's impacts right now, or maybe their income has been decreased, maybe their hours were cut and they're just struggling to budget and get help figuring out how to make ends meet on less money. Our financial counselors can help them set a budget, can help look for places in their expenses or their budget where maybe money is leaking in ways that that isn't helping them. And it also is a service for residents who maybe have work and are doing fine, are relatively stable, but who want to get ahead, who are thinking about the next steps. So residents who maybe want to plan for home ownership, residents who have tried to get a good car loan or get a home loan or start a business and have found that their credit score prevented them from doing any of those things, and they want one-on-one help to improve their credit score. Maybe there's residents who we know there are who are struggling under the weight of student loan debt or medical debt or credit cards or other debt, and they want to figure out, how do I get this under control? And our counselors can help them figure out plans to both to renegotiate that debt, to refinance if it's possible, to get better terms on those debt, to maybe consolidate some of those loans, to figure out how to talk to creditors. Our counselors will help them do that and help them get that debt under control, to do whatever we can to help reduce the debt, and also really then help them get plans to get out from underneath that debt. So, and also for residents who maybe aren't banked at all, who maybe are getting paychecks and taking money home in cash, or using payday lenders or money orders instead of actually banking, our counselors can help them understand why getting banked and having a savings account and a checking account at a local secure financial institution could be beneficial for them, could help their money grow more safely and securely. Counselors can help with any of that, whether it's improving their credit, reducing their debt, growing savings, getting banked. Our counselors are trained and certified to help residents deal with any of those financial challenges.
So you're helping people sleep better.
Yes.
That is an excellent way to put it. Yes.
Total peace of mind.
Yeah. And you could go down that rabbit hole so quickly. You know,
Absolutely.
especially if you're not making a ton of money, and a lot of people in Racine from a statistical standpoint aren't making a ton of money. So that rabbit hole can go very quickly, especially if you've had to deal with COVID and all of that stuff. So like, and you know what, one of the questions that I was wondering is how, like, there's a huge backlog right now with processing unemployment checks. Like, was that part of this equation when you guys put this into place, or what was the impetus for this?
The impetus really from the start was the city's interest in helping residents have more financial cushion and more stability, and really helping residents get into a place where they could become homeowners. That was sort of the first push for us, was having, I mean, as we started digging into disparities in the city and realizing the gaps between African American and Latino or Hispanic residents and white residents in terms of home ownership and income and stability, it was clear that credit and banking and budgeting all were big factors in what were holding residents back. And so from the city's perspective, that's what started us on this path to launch the Financial Empowerment Center. I think it's become clear in 2020 how much more the FEC can do and how many more residents it can help who may just be really struggling because of COVID or because of, exactly like you mentioned, Denise, I mean, delays in getting your unemployment insurance. What do you do? Same thing, it's, we're about to start tax season. Some residents may learn that they're not going to get the refund this year that they had hoped to or that they usually get. And so having a professional financial counselor help you for free to understand, how do I plan to pay this tax bill that's coming due? How do I figure that out? And how do I make sure I'm using the rest of my money in a smart way so that I don't end up in this hole again next year? All of those questions are things that our counselors are now trained to help people navigate. And Xenia says it really well, and I hope she talks about this, about how our counseling is really judgment-free, that this is offered in a confidential way, in a secure way, and it's completely judgment-free. Our counselors understand that people come from all different backgrounds and perspectives and may need help with a couple things or a lot of things, and our counselors are trained and ready to help with any or all of that.
So when you're talking about access to this, so you have to be a City of Racine resident. So does that mean that people who may not be documented, can they access these resources too? Okay.
Yes.
Absolutely, 100%.
So, so when you guys think about like where you want this to go, what's the current capacity? What is the need?
So I think in terms of current capacity, I mean, we have these two fantastic full-time counselors, and Xenia is bilingual in Spanish, so we are able to serve Spanish speakers. And they are expected, and they know this, they are expected to serve at least 200 unique clients every year. So we've got capacity right now to help at least 400 city residents in this first year of the FEC. Our goals certainly are to have the funds we need to grow this service so that we don't end up with wait lists like some other cities are facing. We want to have enough counselors and enough capacity to serve any resident who wants it. And it should be, I just want to be clear too, residents can have as many sessions as they want and as they need with our counselors. We understand that improving credit is not something you do overnight. Getting rid of debt is not something that happens overnight. All these things take time and take coaching, and people can come back and work with our counselors for as many sessions or as many months as they need to help address those different issues.
You know, one of the things that as you were talking, I was thinking about my daughter who's paying like $1,100 a month in rent. And I'm like, you guys really need to deal with this because you're throwing that money away. And so being able to transition into that thinking is really hard, especially when you've got so much rent to pay. Mm-hmm. And so are you seeing a lot of that? Xenia's like shaking her head. Yeah. Tell me more, Xenia.
So I have the majority of I do have a few clients that don't need, as much help. They, needed just a little bit of guidance, but I do have, the majority of my clients are facing like huge disparities. I have people who, just today, I had someone who is negative about $300 a month in their responsibilities. And it's just that gap is just getting larger. And then, you get the overwhelmed feelings, the feelings of shame and all of those things. And that's one thing that Vicki mentioned earlier. The person I was counseling really took the time at the end to thank me for being relatable, thanked me for not judging them because of the things that I saw, and because they have had bad prior experiences. So I really think it is extremely important for us to make our clients feel safe, that it's confidential, that this is a space where they can actually come and unpack that really scary financial bag.
Yeah.
And we're going to go ahead and help them fold it all up and put it in those piles and then put it back in the suitcase. And who knows, it might be a Louis Vuitton suitcase by then,
I think it's a great example, though, Denise, about your daughter. I think there's so many people who they're paying a lot for rent. They've got student loan payments they're trying to keep up with. They've got these bills that arrive every month that are scary and overwhelming. And what rich people do to deal with that is they hire a financial counselor, a professional, to help them, as Ania said, unpack it all and prioritize it. And they get professional advice on what to do with that and what to tackle first. And they get encouragement and coaching to take those steps to deal with each of those financial things that are stressing them out and holding them back from what they really want to be accomplishing. And that's exactly what the FEC is meant to do for Racine's residents, to say, we're giving Racine residents this service for free with professionals because they deserve that professional help just as much as people who have a lot of money and a lot of means. And to have Zenny and Curtis sort of hold their hand through it and say, look, no shame in this at all. Everybody's got financial challenges at one point and maybe multiple points in their lives. And our counselors are here to help them untangle it, to open those bills and envelopes that they maybe have been avoiding, and to help them really think about, to get professional advice about prioritizing it and professional help to tackle all those pieces of finances that have been holding them back or that are scary or overwhelming.
So do we know, when statistically in the city of Racine, how big of a group this is that isn't getting from point A to point B? Do we know what that looks like?
I don't think we know that for sure. We know that, 47% of Racine's residents are renting and not owning homes, and that is much larger than the state average, which is only about 33% of the state overall are renting. So that's one indicator. There's some indicators that about a third to a quarter, maybe 30%-ish of Racine County residents have subprime credit. So they have credit scores that are not going to qualify them for good rates on car loans or home ownership or business loans. So, if you're talking 25% of the city's population, that's a pretty large group of residents. And then there's certainly a large number of residents who we know are struggling right now because of COVID and are just trying to keep up and keep their heads above water financially.
Yeah, it's a hard place to be in. There's so much going on and so many people in the same boat that it's kind of hard to know where to start sometimes, and trying to figure out, like you said, that first place to go. Where do you even begin? So when you talk about the who is served, what does success look like for someone who's using this service?
Curtis or Xenia, why don't you jump in on that?
Okay.
I would gladly jump in. So success could be anywhere from setting up a budget. That is a success right there. That's a win. Or even saving 1 week's worth of income. That's a win. Or reducing your non-mortgage debt by more than 10%. That's a win. In addition to increasing your credit score by 35 points. That's a big win. So those are all big goals that we actually are using to quantify the program. Those are just a few of them too. There are many more that are involved.
I would imagine. So now you guys, do you work for HRI, and this is a partnership, correct?
Yes.
Between the city and HRI.
Yeah.
So tell me more about HRI.
Well, one of us, I don't know which one of us, but so Housing Resources Incorporated, they the way that I guess I would say this all works wonderfully together, and I have talked to some of my clients about this already because they come on in so excited about home ownership. And some of them are not quite there yet. They just are not ready. They don't have the necessary, not only credit score, but there are other things, components that need to be present as well for a lender to, go ahead and lend that type of loan. Now, the HRI, so what we do here with the FEC is we prep them and get them ready for home ownership. Then we do a seamless handoff to HRI. They take the home ownership course, which goes over in-depth things like, inspect what's required, for home ownership, the inspection and all of the money that goes into it and everything, that it means to own a home. And then especially once they've already gone through FEC and they're ready and we hand them off, then HRI will get them the grants that they may be eligible for. They pair them with a lender. So that's why this partnership, it just really makes sense because we prep them, we pass them over, and every time if they, successfully follow our advice and go through HRI, we are going to have homeowners in our city.
That must feel really cool knowing that you get to help people do that.
It does.
Yeah.
And from the city's perspective, I mean, we, have a lot of great partners on this effort, but HRI is our lead partner because they have such a great track record of being in the city and doing great work on home ownership counseling. So they were already skilled at this. Their staff was already skilled at this one-on-one work of helping people overcome financial issues to get in a place for home ownership. And they were turning people away who were calling in. I mean, as Xenia said, people who had home ownership in the back of their mind, but weren't quite ready for it yet. And HRI had nowhere to send them. There was nowhere for them to go locally to get that pre-help that they need to even think about home ownership. And so the FEC really is a great, it's a new service that HRI has added to their work here and their nonprofit mission in Racine. And we are thrilled at the city to have them be partners in this work.
Yeah. So what is go from we're talking about like the 10-foot view and can you kind of pull back out of this and kind of help me understand why this is so important for the health of the city?
Sure. I mean, I think the reason, the city and the mayor are investing so much time and resources and planning and making this happen is because we know that key to having strong residents is having a strong, successful city is having residents who are financially stable, residents who can weather a temporary drop in income, residents who, when the tire blows out on the car, their world doesn't sort of fall apart, where they've got a little bit of savings and a cushion so that they then can get the tire fixed and still get to work and still hold on to employment and still make progress on their other goals. And right now we know from our partners and from what residents tell us, there are too many residents who don't have that security, who don't have that cushion, and who don't have credit that they need to take next big steps, whether that's schooling or home ownership or getting a car so they can get to work reliably. We have too many residents who have these barriers in place, and the FEC is a way to help them overcome all of that. And if we want residents to really be successful workers, successful homeowners, and really stable and feel resilient and be able to plan for the future, the financial counseling they can get through the FEC is key to success on all those fronts. We can't revitalize the city and have more homeowners if we don't have city residents who have the credit that they need or the savings that they need to become homeowners. We can't revitalize the workforce in the city and have employers who are thrilled to be here and who can hire great workers if there aren't workers who have reliable vehicles and can get to work regularly. It's a component, it's been a missing piece for all of those other efforts that at the city we're concerned about.
And that speaks to a really big problem that I've been writing about almost my entire career, which is, but much more so over the last, I'd say, 10 years. So it's not that like communities like Racine don't have jobs. It's that we don't have people who are maybe stable enough to be job ready. And part of that, from what I have been hearing from a lot of employers, is people don't show up on time, or they've got to take care of a lot of other things. that other people could be taken care of, like taking grandma and grandpa to the doctor. And if you had a car, you could do that. Or, there's a lot of logistical things that when you're in poverty, you have to deal with much more on a much more bigger level. And so is that kind of the thinking around this, that you're thinking this is the linchpin as far as how to really help people navigate that?
I think so. I mean, one of our partners described it as the missing piece. And I think that's a really good way to put it, that we've got great, we have great workforce development programs locally and lots of effort on workforce training and connecting people to Gateway and to Parkside and to education and training. We've got HRI doing great work to help people who are ready get into home ownership. We have programs for people coming out of incarceration and coming back to the community. We have all of those other service pieces, but we don't have the one-on-one help that people really need to learn how to build a culture of financial resiliency and how to have people feel in control of their own money and their future. And frankly, from the city's perspective too, this was also very explicitly driven by our desire to tackle disparities in the community that exist between residents of color and white residents, and residents of color who are being left out of opportunities because they don't have this sort of financial education and this sort of non-judgmental, free professional coaching to help them overcome financial challenges and get on better footing for themselves and their kids and their families.
And really quick, if I can add something, what made it super real for me, because I've never counseled before. My background, financially counseled. Prior to this, my background was more case management. But what made it real for me is one of the things that we do in our first session is called an FHA, a financial health assessment, and it asks some questions just to give us a big overall picture of where the person may be standing before we financially, before we start getting into like the real specifics. And one of those questions says, if someone in your household were to have an emergency, were to lose a job, were to have something like that happen, how confident are you that your family or your household will be able to make ends meet that month? The majority of my clients say no. And to me, that is a very scary, intimidating thought. You're not only in poverty and you're trying to make things work, you're trying to get ahead, but then on top of that, in the back of your mind that if something were to happen on the off chance, you really don't have anywhere to turn. So.
Curtis, weigh in on this for me too.
Oh, absolutely. To add to what Xenia has experienced, it's similar to mine. I've had a slightly more amount answer that question. I'd be able to make ends meet, but then we actually go through the numbers later on and they find that, I'm not making ends meet and I'm actually losing money. They've never written down any of their numbers before, and we go through and ask questions and have them go over their finances with us right then and there, whether it be video or phone. And I found the shock and awe of hearing somebody go, what? I didn't realize that. That's pretty powerful.
Yeah. There's a reality, and then you're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do about this? Oh, wait, there's a person here that can help me.
Yep.
Yeah. And you know what? Financial stability is such a huge determiner of relationships too, of the health and wellness. Because if you look at domestic violence, being able to be okay is probably financially is one of the biggest reasons why you have a fight, right?
Yes.
So interesting. Yeah. I
think, we have so many partners who are excited about this because of exactly what you're bringing up, Denise, which is the stress and the exhaustion, frankly, that so many residents feel that's due to finances, that then contributes to everything else in their life, their relationships with their kids, their relationships with their family and their neighbors, the things that they can plan for and dream about. And if you don't have control over those finances, if you don't have a plan and you feel overwhelmed by the bills coming through the door, even if you're making decent money, if those things are weighing on you, it's really hard to think about and plan meaningfully for your kids' future and what you want for them. and for your own future and what you want for yourself. And so I think the counselors are, in many ways, the work they're doing one-on-one with people is giving them control and giving them the tools they need to plan and dream in ways that it's really hard to do when you feel overwhelmed by financial stress.
And hope.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, hope. Hope is the big one. I did have a client who, when she found out where her score was actually at and that things weren't, adding up at the end of the month and stuff, she really thought it was a reflection on her as a person. And, when I coined a phrase from another counselor that trained us in a more experienced FEC. She told us, a credit score is nothing but an algorithm that predicts whether the likelihood of you paying your bills on time every month. It doesn't define you as a person. So even though we're financial counselors and we trained in all this financial stuff, a very difficult test, and all this training and everything from professionals and all of that, we do more than just counsel financially. We give people hope, and when you're so overwhelmed with everything, sometimes all you need is somebody to tell you you can still make it out of this. It's not too bad. We can turn it around.
Yeah. We're dealing with the ugliest, most touchiest subject known to mankind, and that is money.
Absolutely.
And it takes an ear of compassion, because emotions are heightened when you're dealing with financial stress, and relieving that is what we're trying to help through talking and putting stuff on paper. We're here to help do that.
So, Vicki, tell me a little bit about the partnerships. You were talking about HRI, but who else do you have partnering with you guys again?
So I can send you a couple of slides, Denise, that have or a graphic that has all of our current partners logos listed on it. But we've built partnerships now with, I think, almost 20 different organizations who are all referring their clients and participants to the FEC, and who are thinking about how to integrate this into their own service. So that includes like the United Way, it includes our USD's parent engagement programs, it includes Racine Vocational Ministries, includes the Racine Collaborative for Mental Health, Gateway Technical College. There is a long list of partners, and I can send you that graphic if you want. That'll show you all of them.
Oh, that reminds me of another question that kind of just popped into my head. So when we were talking about who can use this service, can people who have felony convictions?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Anybody over the age of 18.
Yeah.
Yep, you got to be over 18 and you have to actually live in the city of Racine. And other than that, there's really no eligibility or other restrictions on who we can serve.
So how do people access this service?
So the easiest way is for people to go to our website, which is racinefec.org, and they can request an appointment there. They also could call. And Zenny or Curtis, you want to give out the phone number?
Curtis is always ready with that number.
I'm not. I actually have my own number memorized. If you want that, it's 262-214-1296.
Say that again one time. Is that support number? Or
that's my direct line, actually.
Well, let's give out the general intake number, Curtis. And,
well, here, give me 2 moments. Let me get that.
I got it. It's 262-200-0831. So 200-0831. And residents can call, and the person who answers those calls also speaks Spanish. And so people can, Spanish speakers can get help that way as well. And the website also is fully viewable in Spanish too for residents. But they can just request an appointment online, and then someone gets back to them right away to get that scheduled. One of the counselors follows up with them to get that scheduled.
Okay, one more question, then I'm going to throw the big fish net out. So what happens if you have more than 400 people? Like, what is the long-term capacity going to be built out to? Is that something that's on the table?
It is. We currently have, so we have sort of a challenge grant from our national partners. So these FECs, it's important to say, are part of a national movement. Racine became the 21st FEC to launch, and we are the smallest to launch so far. nationwide. So there's 20 others besides, well now, and Tulsa opened right after us. So now there's 22 total in the country. And so our national funding partner has given us a challenge. For our first year, we had to raise $150,000 to get the FEC off the ground, and they gave us then a direct match of another $150,000. We're now in our second year match challenge, where we have to raise $200,000, and if we do that, they will add another $100,000 to what they give us. So we're in that period right now of fundraising and work. Our goal is certainly to be able to add a third counselor within the next year and have that third counselor go through the same training and certification that Xenia and Curtis have gone through to be able to expand services. There's also, I think, if we're at a point where we're going to have wait lists or people are really going to have to wait a long time for service, we are prepared to figure out how we get extra funding to add another counselor sooner. For now, Xenia and Curtis, I think, have got it under control and can handle all the residents coming their way. That we want residents to call them and not worry about that. And this is their job. Xenia and Curtis are full-time doing this and are able to serve everybody who wants this help right now.
So is there anything else that you wanted to add that maybe I didn't ask?
I would say just for hours, sometimes people ask, like, well, I work, first shift, like I don't get off until a certain time. We are, technically, they always say like 9 to 5 or something, but we are flexible. So for instance, if someone works first shift and they need a 5 o'clock, a 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock appointment, we can work with our clients to set, make sure that they're taken care of. It doesn't matter the time, really.